If you're a writer trying to build your business, you know the hardest part is finding clients. You're told just to post more content or send more DMs, but you know as well as I do that your prospects are not out there posting about their problems. Most of them are just lurkers, and you probably don't have years to wait for clients to come to you. So today I'm going to run you through 7 strategies to help you find your next 10 clients. You don't need endless hours on social media. You don't need to send spammy, sleazy messages that come across incredibly desperate. And you don't need to be an expert in your niche either. There are 5 billion people online right now, and you only need a few to get your business up and running. I'll help you find them. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's dive in. Before we crack on with the first strategy, I just want to make one point. The entire purpose of this is conversations. Having conversations with the people that you might be able to work with. And there are 3 reasons why. First, contact creates clarity. So if you don't have an offer, the way that you design one is that you go and speak to the people that you can help instead of just disappearing and writing it on paper and then hoping that it'll work. If you do have an offer, you're going to find out very quickly how you're positioning it by reaching out to people and seeing if they actually want it. Number 2, proximity creates power. By being closer to the people that you can serve, your business is going to grow so much faster. If you compare someone who just creates content versus someone who's actually in the DMs or sending messages or reaching out to people, who do you think is going to win over a 1-year time frame? And third, most importantly, empathy is everything. The writer who understands their audience the most wins. And so when we think about doing this outreach stuff, don't think, oh, I'm just here to sell and pitch, because then that's going to lump you in with the crowd of generic creators doing so. Instead, we're here to learn. We're here to connect. We're here to find out more about people. If you take this approach, I guarantee to you, you will not struggle for finding clients. And so on that, let's have a look at the first place to look. It's the most obvious and yet so entirely overlooked it blows my mind. Where? Your audience. I always say writing is a magnet. And so anyone who follows or engages in your content is signaling some form of interest. And this is why social media is worth it, okay? It takes time to get going, to get that ball rolling. But once you begin to build momentum, you have an endless source of potential clients who might be interested in your offers. And a quick note on that, there are a lot of people with big audiences who still struggle. And there are 2 reasons why. First, they create crap content, right? And they always say if writing is a magnet and what you're putting out is shit, don't be surprised when your business stinks. Second, they think that just posting content is all of the work, when in reality, it is just the start, especially these days when content is so competitive. And so if you just follow this next tip and then turn off this video, although I'd prefer that you didn't, I guarantee that your business is going to bloom like a flower in spring. Become insatiably curious about your audience. Anyone who engages on your content, you need to be reaching out to. Any followers as well, okay? Because the more you do this, the more you begin to create deep and meaningful connections. Think about it. Someone kind of stumbles into your world and they see a couple of posts and then they disappear again. There's not a strong magnet connection. But if someone starts engaging your stuff and then you're in the DMs asking how things are going and relating to them, it has such an incredible effect. You must appreciate that you turn followers into fans kind of one day at a time. And so by doing this work, what you'll find is that people begin to engage much more in your content as opposed to passively sitting there with your thumb up your ass waiting for momentum to happen. So not only will this strategy lead to more clients, but it's going to build deeper relationships too, because you will go so far just by treating your followers as more than a number on the screen. But what if you haven't got an audience yet? Or what happens if the audience is so tiny that you can do that bit of work in just a day? Well, the next one is again a completely overlooked strategy, but it works a charm, and that is to tap into your competitors' audience. Because you might not have a big audience, but they do. And one of the issues that bigger brands have is that they aren't able to focus on one-to-one relationships like you can. So this is where your competitive advantage is. Right? While they're just creating content, it's like they've got this net with loads of holes in that people come into the world and fall out. Whilst you have the time and the space to actually speak to these people and pull them away from their world into your own. For example, when I launched my first digital product, my audience was pretty small. I didn't know what people wanted. And so all I did was I went on to my top 3 competitors, and every time they asked a question about their audience, what can I help with? What am I struggling with? I sat there with a pen and paper just going like, okay, wrote it all down, found the top problems, which in this case was writer's block, built my first digital product, and away we go. And so I want you to do something similar. If you take your top 5 competitors and ideally find the people that you really enjoy to consume too, because you'll have a very good crossover. The people that are following them are going to have a natural interest in your content, and then just start going through all of their posts and see who is engaging, who's commenting, who's liking. Then go on to their pages and start commenting on their stuff a little bit. Reach out to them. The key here is to actually start and meet the market where they're at. It's like, hey, I saw that you were interested in this thing. Me too. Give a little personal anecdote about how it affected you. Show that you have a shared point of view. And then simply ask, how are things going? Right? Don't come in and be like, hey, you want to hop on a call or anything like that. Just ask how things are going as related to the transformation promise that you provide. And you'll find that these open-ended questions begin to kind of open up a world of opportunity. Again, few of these people will become clients, but what will happen is that many will become followers, because what do people do when you slide into their DMs? They check out your social media profile. And this is why it's important that you want to be creating highly specific content that talks about their problems, because then they see that you're the real deal. Now, if you'd like help with that, I have a guide called the 5 Pillars of Magnetic Writing, which will show you precisely what to say so that you can turn content into clients. It's for free. Takes about 10 minutes to read, and I guarantee it's much better than most of the writing crap that you've seen out there online. You can download it at the link below. And so far, we've literally just been speaking about social media, but there is a whole world out there for you to tap into. And so the next few tips that I'm going to give you, we're going to begin to expand our reach. Firstly, we're going to begin with your network. When I started online, I was terrified to tell my friends and family what I was up to. I used to care way too much about what people think, still do a little bit, working on it, but you need to get rid of that as an entrepreneur. Shame is just a societal script that keeps you thinking small. If you're serious about building your business, you must reach out to everyone that you know, friends, family, old classmates, okay? Let them know what you're up to. And here's a little tip just to kind of relieve the pressure and make it easier for you. Don't ask them if they're interested. Ask them if they know anybody else who is interested. This way, if they are interested, they might let you know. If not, they're going to refer you on to someone that they do know. And let's say they're not too sure at the moment, that's completely fine, because what will happen is the more moves you make, okay, the more results you get, the more interest they're going to have. It's like laying little seeds and then you begin to water them. Now, this next tip is actually where I found my first high ticket client, and that is attending events. What do I mean by events? Well, these can be real life gatherings, but they can also be digital gatherings, such as group coaching programs, cohorts, etc. The reason why events are so good is because somebody has took the time and effort to create a magnet for like-minded people to gather, and all you need to do is slide in and become a useful, engaging member within it. This is one of the most powerful ways to get going. So for example, I mentioned I got my first high ticket client about 3 years ago from this approach. I had a friend who launched his masculinity coaching business by going to men's health groups, and I have another friend who has a 7-figure software business, and all he does is fly around the world going from event to event where people that he can serve are there. The reason this channel is overlooked is because you're paying to play, but that's the point. Everyone who attends these things are serious, okay? They are willing to invest in their success. And so that can actually be so much easier than sitting on social media hoping that someone will pay you. Now, between real life events and digital, real life is obviously a lot harder to get to, but they're fantastic for creating intimate connections. You can still do it digitally though. So if they have like a forum space, you want to be super active there, right? You want to be giving as much advice as you can. Then you send messages to people as well. Again, just going from curiosity, right? You're not there to pitch, you're there to learn, and just keep making connections. Hop on calls as well. As always, these people may not become clients, but reputation is earned one day at a time. They may refer on other people towards you, they may support your content, or like I was saying, the more compelling your offer gets, the more appealing it becomes to work with you too. And on that note, that leads us to our next strategy, which is less dependent on kind of events running live, and that's niche forums and communities. So these areas, again, are where people have gathered, right? They've almost filtered out the crap for you. For example, I'm in several communities. I'm in one for creative entrepreneurs. I'm in one for independent location entrepreneurs. And if I wasn't so lazy and wanted to build my high ticket business and didn't have my audience, I would be focusing so much on being an engaged member of this community. Right? There are thousands of people there. Right? And sure, not everyone is interested in writing, but when they think about the word writing and they see my name constantly everywhere, who do you think they think of? Or if they have a friend who says they're going to build their email list or their newsletter and they go, who's worth studying, who do they point you towards? And the main resistance for doing these niche forums, which by the way, stuff like Reddit could be great, it's time, right? You think, oh God, I don't want to have to do that too. Relationship building and reputation building is never a waste of time, but it can also be a great place to get content ideas because the best content comes from conversation. And so far, that's 5 places that you can focus your effort. And the next 2, again, are strategies that for some reason most creators just don't even consider, but they work fantastically. The first is newsletter advertising. So email is a key component of building a writer's world, and you'll find that big brands have spent years cultivating trust and relationships by sending weekly newsletters or more frequency. You can tap into their leverage within moments. And the reason I'm such a fan of running newsletter ads is because the subscribers are super high intent. It's much better quality than if you're, for example, doing Facebook ads. But for that reason, it can be a little bit more expensive. So you want to be kind of cautious about this. The way that you do it is that you want to create a problem-solving lead magnet, or I call them authority assets, that people will give in exchange for emails with a really compelling call to action that they'll put at the top of the newsletter. You will then have a sequence that follows up with story-driven emails that encourage conversation about their problems. The people that then begin speaking to you are signaling seriously high intent, and you just start replying, asking open-ended questions, going deeper into things, and if they match your profile, then you offer to hop on a call. And by the way, when you're offering to hop on calls, don't do this weird thing where you pretend that you don't have an offer to sell, because it's better to be polarizing now than disappointing later, something I've learned from dating. And actually, you can use this to your advantage. You could say something like, do you fancy hopping on a 45-minute call to discuss this further? I'd be happy to offer some advice where I can. And you might be wondering what I get out of this. I'll be upfront. I am building an offer to help people, and I just really want to learn from people that I might be able to serve so that my ideas can connect deeper with them. But there won't be any desperate sales pitches or sleazy kind of pitches at the end. I hate that shit. Instead, I'll give advice where I can. If I feel like I have something to offer you, I'll mention it briefly at the end. And if you're interested, that's great. If not, we're both winning anyway. See how low pressure that is? Okay, you still get to pitch your stuff. They know that it's coming. They're not surprised by it. But you're not there with your kind of Alex Hormozi wannabe scripts, just feeling very fake and forced. Now let's spin back to the newsletter and stuff. My favorite part about this is that you are paying to grow your newsletter at the same time. So one of the OG marketers, Dean Jackson, done some studies and they found that most people don't become buyers until after 90 days of entering your world. And so what you'll find is that, yes, sure, you might get people, they've got their bleeding neck problem and they want a miracle solution right now. That's fantastic. But by sending a weekly newsletter, you're going to slowly build up a potential pool of clients so that when you begin relaunching your offer as you go, you're no longer chasing people on social media. But a quick note, this is higher risk because you are now paying for advertising. And so sometimes people do this when they don't have an offer in place. It's madness. It's reckless gambling, okay? You want to be able to recoup the money that you've made so that you can then reinvest and do it some more. I recorded another video on this topic, which I'll share at the end of this one. But before we do, one final note. So the 7th source of potential clients, and that is wider advertising. So paid ads like Meta on YouTube. The benefit of paid ads is that you can quickly test ideas. So if you whip up some landing page copy and copy for your ad and you're not getting any responses, well, you know that what you're building isn't really resonating and you've only put a certain amount of money to find out that fact. But be warned, this is a skill in itself. It's funny when you listen to some marketers, they make it sound like you just turn the money tap on, sit back and let it all roll in. It doesn't work like that. Writing to cold traffic is brutal, right? You can't be sloppy like you are on social media. And so if you're going to do the paid ad stuff, you need to take it seriously, or you need to find someone who has been doing it already. Now, I've just started running paid ads to grow my newsletter, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on stuff. I won't give you advice that I haven't really figured out myself. But it is a great component to have running in your business so you're not relying on social media. In fact, I have a friend who he created content for a year, he done very, very well, hated every second, quit, and now he's building his entire community through paid ads alone. He knows that so long as he can recoup his costs, he's happy to spend 6 to 12 months slowly cultivating this community, and then he never really has to post content, which to me sounds like an absolute dream. But as I said, it's a skill to build. So if you are going to do it, take it very seriously. And so there's 7 sources of clients, but let me just leave you with one quick note that's really going to set you apart from other people: doing the work. Right? Someone's going to watch this video and be like, oh yeah, that's great, and then they might send a couple of messages. This is all about volume, particularly at the start. Repetition gets results. So start with what you've got. Okay, you can tap into your audience, competitors' audience, and your network right now. Keep an eye out for events that you might like. Keep an eye out for communities that you might like, and start reading newsletters that you enjoy and think, can I pay this person to advertise inside of that? And this is the hardest part of growing your business, right? It's a lot of low leverage work that can be incredibly frustrating. The only way you fail is if you stop. You have to keep reminding yourself of that. So the way that I've done it with my clients is we say, look, let's just do a 30-day sprint, and the only thing I want to do now is have conversations with potential customers. By setting a time limit, we have a sprint that we can work towards, we can assess if stuff is working and stuff is not, and hopefully at the end of those 30 days, you've began to attract clients that will then improve your content, which means you're going to lead to more clients. There's a really cool flywheel, but it all requires this initial burst of activation energy to get going. So follow these tips and check out the video if you're interested in the newsletter strategy. I've shared it here. Cheers.